You think unlimited fines are tough? Well, just last year, the chair of the Environment Agency called for bosses of the privatised water monopolies to be jailed for treating our rivers and coastline as sewers. None of that talk from the government this weekend. Ahead of May's council elections, the issue is storming up the agenda. The Lib Dem leader wants the Environment Secretary, Therese Coffey, to resign. Labour says the government has totally failed to protect our river systems.
What the government has done to our rivers and beaches is turn them into open sewers. And people are really disgusted with what's been going on after 13 years.
The Conservatives accuse both of having no realistic solutions. We asked the Environment Agency and the government for an interview, but they declined. The problem? Catastrophic. 825 sewage discharges every day into English rivers alone. They doubled from 2016 to 19. During which time the water companies paid their shareholders well north of £1 billion. Conservation groups say unlimited fines is a great slogan, but the only way you clean up our rivers and coasts is to give the watchdog, the Environment Agency, some teeth.
There are serious questions to be asked, and that relates to how is this law going to be enforced? Because the body that's tasked to do it, the Environment Agency, in the last 10 years, and it has had its environmental protection and enforcement budgets cut to the tune of about 75%. So if this is a big announcement, this is what's going to solve the rivers. The thing that is going to solve our rivers is refunding environmental protection and enforcement. And at the moment, there doesn't seem to be anything about this.
The English water companies' combined national spill total is 302,000 incidents last year of sewage being dumped into our waterways and coasts. And here are the companies responsible. The worst at the top. United Utilities in northwestern England is responsible for a fifth of the incidents. Over 69,000 last year alone. United Utilities say they are on course to cut storm overflow sewage discharges a third by 2025. So Rishi Sunak now under real political pressure on this as never before. The Conservatives point out they set up the national monitoring system and impose strict new targets for the water companies. But their backbenchers complain this is becoming a major doorstep issue with the public, particularly in coastal constituencies, as council elections loom next month.
Well, as head of campaigns for the Angling Trust, Stuart Singleton-White has been calling for cleaner water for several years, and he joins me now. Thanks very much, Stuart, for coming in. This is what we've been waiting for. A totally welcome step, big fines, and the money channeled straight back into clean-up.
Well, as you say, anglers have been calling for this action or more action to clean up our rivers for years. And only last year, we put forward a paper that actually set out precisely what the government have announced today. So it's welcome as a first step. We need to see the details. We need to see how it's going to work. But it's only the beginning. We've got to see the government being much bolder and much braver, funding our regulators, giving them powers to really hold these water companies to account. We've had years and years and years of neglect and underinvestment.
To be fair to the government, though, they have done that. I mean, we wouldn't know how bad things are were it not for a Conservative government, which has established monitoring on storm overflows.
Yes, that's true, but also we know that a lot of that monitoring was then self-reporting. And as we know now, with the legal actions and the investigations that are going on, a lot of that self-reporting has turned out to be incorrect and untrue. So asking water companies to mark their own homework is not really a very effective way of monitoring and regulating and delivering the change we need to do. We need to see a government that's going to come down hard on these water companies, that's going to say to these water bosses, put biodiversity before bonuses and clean up our rivers.
So how do we police it? I mean, the Environment Agency widely accused of being a watchdog without teeth. I know people within the agency who would agree with that.
Yeah. So we need to reverse the massive cuts we've seen in the Environment Agency. We need to give them more powers. They need to be able to process the fines and the actions more quickly. They need
which has been promised.
Which has been promised, but let's see the detail. Let's reserve judgment until we see the detail of how this is going to work. But importantly as well, we also need to see Ofwat, the economic regulator, to really up its game and to really force these water companies to drive the investment and the action needed to stop these overflows.
Right. The worry is that the dividends still get paid to the shareholders, and all these extra costs may get shoved onto people's bills.
That doesn't need to happen. If you look at the level of profits, if you look at the level of bonuses, we've got to see the bearing down on that. This is not about loading up people's bills. This is about getting water companies to face up to their societal responsibilities to clean up our rivers.
Right, we'll see how they're brought to face up to that. Stuart Singleton-White, thanks very much for coming in.